Hello friends, my name is Nick, and today we're going to do a houseplant haul video. I know, it's been like a year since I've done a houseplant haul video. I wasn't buying plants. I loaded up on plants over the years. I was doing houseplant haul videos every month, and they always had like 10 to 15 plants. We don't have 10 to 15 plants to talk about today. We're gonna talk about 6 plants that I've acquired over the last month and a half, I would say. And they're all really cool plants, in my opinion. One of them I have hauled a couple times in the past. This might be my 3rd strike and it's out if we fail. But I'm just gonna talk about that one first. Why not? I'm already talking about it. I have a non-variegated version of it and it's growing incredibly well for me. This is a Hoya australis lisa, one of the variegated varieties of Hoya australis. Back in the days, I say that as if it's been more than a couple years ago. A couple years ago, when Hoyas beyond Hoya carnosa and pubicalyx were difficult to get your hands on, I got in a fresh batch of Hoya australis at the plant shop and I was thrilled. I had to bring one home with me. I brought home the juiciest looking one in the batch, of course, and it died back pretty quickly to just a couple of leaves. I repotted it right away. That was my fault. I've learned from my mistakes. But it eventually, within like 6 months of bringing it home, just shot off a bunch of new growth, and I'm not gonna grab it. It's too much of a hassle to pull out from the shelf. Maybe I'll include a little shot of it. But it's taken over 2 bamboo hoops. I need to get it up on a larger trellis at this point. It's just really a monstrosity. And I want to experience that same experience with Hoya australis lisa, but I brought a couple of these home in the past and they've always died on me. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I have such good success with the non-variegated version, and variegated versions of plants are, you know, known for being more temperamental than the non-variegated versions. But when it comes to Hoyas, these things, like, if you can take care of one variety, you can take care of any variety. So I have yet to understand what I'm doing wrong. You might see it's still in its plastic nursery planter. Once this one settles into my space a little bit more, I will repot it into a soil mixture that's a little bit more suited for Hoyas. Or maybe I'll consider trying growing it in semi-hydro, or taking one of these pieces out. There's at least 5 or 6 cuttings in this pot here, and putting in some sphagnum moss or making a plant mat out of it. I don't know. I've not really had the best success growing this one in soil, so something's telling me try something other than soil. But fortunately, if I do fail with this plant, it was pretty cheap. It was $8, which a Hoya australis lisa for $8 a couple years ago, insanity. But nowadays, with the prices of plants coming down to a really nice level, plants aren't as much of a burden on your wallet. And that's another reason why I'm feeling a little bit more interested in bringing some plants home, because a lot of the plants that used to be like $100 are now like $20. And I love that. This plant, and actually most of the plants I'm going to be talking about in today's haul, are from a local roaming farmers market, plant market deal here in Philadelphia called Petal. As far as I'm aware, they do not have a website for me to link in the description below, but if you are in Philadelphia in the warmer months and you happen to be here on the weekend, check out Rittenhouse Square on Saturdays and you will see their plants. They go around the city in some other locations too, and if I'm just walking by and I forget that they're gonna be there, it's hard not to bring a plant home. So good thing I have some extra room right now to bring in some plants. But like I said earlier, this is my 3rd attempt with Hoya australis lisa, and I kind of have a 3 strikes and you're out policy when it comes to houseplants. So I really hope this is the one that grows well and takes off for me. So far so good. Obviously, I've had it for like 3 or 4 weeks at this point, so only time will tell, but I've learned from my mistakes, hopefully enough at this point when it comes to Hoya australis lisa. Another plant that I am very thrilled to see at that same price point, also cost only $8, is this Ficus elastica Shivereana. Not positive on the pronunciation, as with any houseplant name, they all are practically gibberish, but you say it confidently enough and anybody will believe you. This is just like a super funky variety of the rubber tree ficus. I've seen this popping up on Instagram a couple years ago, and of course it was like $125 plus for the size plant that I have here now. But with the magic of cultivation and likely tissue culture, this plant is now available at prices lower than ever before, which really is fantastic. Tissue culture is a marvelous thing. I know some people kind of knock it because at first the plants look kind of weak, but I just think about my Rhaphidophora trellis, where I have 2 Rhaphidophora tetraspermas planted in the same planter, but at first one of them was tissue culture, one of them was not tissue culture, but enough time went by that they both look identical at this point. At first, did they look different? Yes. Now that it's been a couple of years, I cannot tell them apart in the slightest. So, big fan of tissue culture. I love what it's doing to the plant market. If I was a plant seller, I might not feel the same way, but as a plant consumer, I'm here for it. I'm also just like having a moment with ficus these days. I'm really into them. I've had some really good success with them over the years. I'm kind of discovering like what I am looking for in a plant and what I'm not looking for in a plant, and I think ficus really have what I'm looking for aesthetically. At first, sometimes they can be temperamental, and some of those types of ficus, like the Ficus benjamina, for example, they're like the types of plants where you just look at them and leaves fall off. But Ficus elastica and similar varieties with the thicker foliage, definitely much more reliable ficuses. And you can get one plant like this in a little 4-inch pot, and you might be surprised what it looks like in a couple of years when you have a freaking tree on your hands. And I think a freaking tree with all of this lovely variegated foliage, it's just so lovely. It's really just like no other. I'm gonna be a very happy boy. So I'm gonna let this thing grow for a little while. Once it starts to form a little bit of trunk, maybe I can consider snipping it somewhere and encouraging it to branch off. I don't know what that is. It's 2 little branches coming off the snipped top part. But yes, what's not to look forward to with such a stunning specimen of a houseplant? I'd like to see more ficus varieties. I think they are really cool. Let's just continue talking about the plants that I got from the Petal Farmers Market. So this is a Peperomia caperata. I believe the variety, that's the word I'm looking for, name is Keto. I looked it up in Spanish, and apparently it means, I forget what it means. My short-term memory is so bad. Yeah, I can't remember, but it was something that didn't make any sense, so I don't really understand the name at all. But what I love about this plant and what led me to bringing this home is that fun orange foliage. There was another orange Peperomia on the market. I'm sure it's still on the market, but the pumpkins, whatever, Peperomia, the Peperomia rugosa, but it's like the pumpkin variety, and that's what they call it. And I grew one in my home, and granted, I probably wasn't giving it the exact conditions that it wanted, but it just reverted back to a standard Peperomia rugosa. But this one is seeming to hold on to that orange color. I would also just trust a Peperomia caperata a little bit more than I would trust a Peperomia rugosa in the home, because these are plants that just perform a lot better in the standard conditions that we have in our homes. But I have actually had this particular plant for a couple of months now. I picked it up in the springtime. I'm just tacking it onto today's video because I want to talk about it and I haven't talked about it yet. And here's my excuse to talk about it. So it's really held up that orange color just as well as it was looking at the farmer's market when I picked it up earlier this year. I am taking a tip from my own book and leaving this particular Peperomia be inside this plastic nursery planter. The Hoya, I was going to call Peperomia the Hoya, and the Ficus, both of these I will be repotting before the end of the growing season. I'm still just letting those ones settle in because I did only get those ones in the past couple of weeks. But this one, like I said, I had it for a couple of months and it's going to live inside here for at least the rest of this year into the next growing season, and at that point maybe I'll consider repotting it if the soil's just like not looking too hot. But if the soil's looking fine, I'm going to leave it be. I have learned with my mistakes of growing Peperomias like this and many of the other Peperomias that grow on that kind of central trunk-ish looking thing. Think the Peperomias that grow very similarly to a Pilea peperomioides. Those varieties with that particular growth pattern I find just do much better when I leave them be inside their plastic nursery planter. I don't understand it, but the plant does, so I just listen to the plant. I think orange plants are really cool. I would like to see more of them. The only 3 other orange plants I can think of are like the fireflash spider plant, the philodendron biliaceae, and both of those only have like orange petioles, so it doesn't really count. And then the orange doodad, the Peperomia, the freaking Peperomia rugosa. There's more orange plants. There's bromeliads and anthuriums with orange flowers. I want a good orange leaf. I guess the bromeliads are pretty sexy, but nobody really likes bromeliads. I think we gotta change that. Bromeliads are so cool. I actually don't even grow one in my home, so I'm not really one to speak on that. Oh, I gotta have to do one over here. So this actually really blew me away when I saw it. So this is, I don't even know what this is. I mean, it's a Rhaphidophora, I know that. So oh God, I'm gonna just put the name on screen. This tag says Rhaphidophora hookeri, and then like S-I don't know. I'm gonna Google it, and then I'm just gonna put the name on screen like I normally do in the bottom left-hand corner. Anyway, when I saw this at the farmer's market, I brought it over to the plant guy who's always working there that I'm always talking to. And I asked him, puzzled, is this also $20 like all the other 6-inch plants? Because I've never seen this before, and this seems like something that people would be like kind of freaking out about. But no, he said it was just $20, and yeah, I've never seen this Raph before. There are so many different growth patterns that we experience with Rhaphidophoras. This one is giving me most similarly to of the common Rhaphidophoras, the decursiva or the dragon's tail plant. I don't freaking know the common names for half of these plants. It's so much easier just to use the scientific name most of the time, even though they sound ridiculous. But the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma grows much longer and vinier, and then there's all those shingling rafts, which this doesn't seem to grow like that. You can see from the stem here, it's growing off in these little clumps and clusters of plant, which really gives it just this such lovely appearance, and I'm very excited to see what it looks like over time. I'm sure as it matures, obviously these are separate nodes on this stalk here, so the internodes have to get longer at some point. I think I'm thinking a little too hard about this though. I should really just enjoy this plant for what it is. I love the leaves. I don't think many people will probably be freaking out over these leaves, but I think this leaf shape is just like amazing. I love how it's like mildly asymmetrical and just giving just leaf. If I was to describe these leaves, I would describe them as leaves. They look like leaves to me. Usually my descriptive words about the plant's leaves have a little bit more sustenance, but today these are just giving me leaves. I've only had this one for about a month now, but it's spat out a couple new leaves. You can see the new leaves are definitely a little bit more apparent, and they look good. Sometimes I bring home plants and the new leaves come in looking bad as the plant's acclimating to my home. But no, these leaves are coming in looking good, which is a good thing. Especially a good thing because sometimes these more out there house plants are the ones that are the most difficult to grow. So sometimes I feel like I'm taking a gamble when I bring home a plant that I really know nothing about. I like to do my research on a plant before I bring it home, but I just couldn't help it. For $20, bringing home this beautiful house plant, it's totally giving like tropical meets boho, which I think is sick. What a fun combination. Ultimately, I don't really understand the growth pattern of this plant whatsoever, but if it would grow well on a moss pole or a trellis, I'm assuming it would, that it would make quite the beautiful specimen with the ways that these leaves just hang down all leaf-like and such. Really looking forward to watching this one grow. I'm way too excited about this next one. I've been having a moment with this plant lately. This is a false Aralia. It's really nothing wild in terms of what I know sometimes my audience is looking for when it comes to plants, but this has just been really catching my eye. In the neighborhood where I live in Philadelphia, there are a couple stores that have these just like sitting in their windows, and every time I walk past them, I just really want one. You ever feel that way? It's a plant that in its state right now, although fabulous, arguably, it's not going to entice you to want to bring it home as much as it would if you see these unique specimens that people have obviously had for years and years. Aralias and Scheffleras, or umbrella trees, are both in the same family. They're in the Aralia family, who would have guessed it, and they both have very similar growth patterns. So if you're familiar with an umbrella tree, if you've seen large umbrella trees, or maybe have seen a large specimen that someone has clearly had for years, and you're going to kind of understand what this plant's going to look like over time. However, instead of those large, albeit beautiful leaves, these have these very intricate, lacy, jagged, dark leaves. The foliage is fantastic. Like I said, arguably beautiful when it's in this little bush-like clump here right now, but I just couldn't help myself and bring home a little something to grow over time. Plus, I usually only see these sold as like teeny tiny little plants, like in terrarium selection, which makes no sense to me, or I will see them as large bushes, not like large, but you know, like waist-height bushes, and I didn't want either of those. So I went digging online. This isn't even a difficult plant to find. I just didn't feel like going around to a bunch of plant stores because I know it's not something that people typically have in stock for some reason. But I just wanted a 4-inch pot of false Aralia, and I got it. I ordered this from a website. I'll leave it linked in the description below. It was called Canopi Plants, I believe. Whatever's linked in the description below is where I got it from. I really liked how they shipped their plants, particularly. They came in like their own boxes. I thought it was really cool. I didn't do an unboxing because it was just a little gift to myself, a little treat for me. But yeah, I'm just so thrilled with it. I'm excited to watch it grow. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on it. It definitely gives me vibes of something that could easily get like spider mites or thrips and pests. And I'm tired of the pests. In fact, I'm feeling so tired of the pests lately that I know I just talked about that Rhaphidophora, but I'm kind of cutting off me getting aroids. Philodendrons particularly are the biggest culprit in my home for harboring pests. The thrips just love them, and I just can't get rid of them. But all my other plants, my ficus, my Hoyas, granted they do get mealybugs, but it's so easy to control. Those plants aren't giving me as much of a headache when it comes to the pests, so I'm kind of tired of all my pest-ridden philodendrons, and I don't really want any more of it. I want things that are going to grow wonderfully for years to come in a pest-free home. So for the time being, I'm ceasing bringing home specifically philodendrons, but most aroids, some exceptions. Anyway, this is not an aroid, so this is welcome to my home, and I'm just very excited to watch this one grow over time. I would love to have more plants in my home that have just this fun, frilly boho vibe. I think it really just is magical. Last but most certainly not least is another plant I got from this same website, Canopi Plants. This is a Dracaena goldieana. I really wanted one of these a couple years ago. The only place that I could find it though was a local plant store had them in stock, but they cost like $150 for this. So I was like, absolutely not. I will wait on that one, and I literally just thought about it like a couple weeks ago. I was like, I wonder if this plant has come down in price since then, and when I Googled it, it was available for $20 on that website that I got them from. Granted, I did see them online for a vast range of prices. Some of them were still above that $100 mark, but it's a Dracaena. I don't know. I mean, it's got sick ass variegation, if you can describe variegation as sick ass. Yes, you can. And the new leaves, or I think the leaves, I mean, not the old ones, maybe it's too young, but at least the new leaves right now, they get this little purple tinge on them. I like it. It's worth $20. It's not worth $120. But I've been wanting to try out some new plants that I haven't grown before, to put on my desk, to put near me, to bring me joy when I'm doing my work throughout the day, and I thought this was the perfect plant to do so. And I'm obsessed with it so far. I love the foliage. One of my friends said it reminds them of the snake plant foliage, like the classic snake plant, Trifasciata, Sansevieria, which is ironically now, or coincidentally, I don't know, Dracaena. So yeah, it's like the leafy version of the thicker version of Dracaenas. So I love that. And it's also got a little baby plant, you can see right here, which is just putting off its first mature looking leaf. And that one does have some purple on the back. I don't know what the tea is. We'll figure it out over time. If you know anything about this plant, let me know. But I know that it's a Dracaena, like I said, so it's not like a hot plant on the market regardless of it having that high price tag before. But really, at the end of the day, plant prices mean nothing. What matters is what they mean to you in your heart, or what they do to your home aesthetically. Also pretty important to me. But that's gonna do it for today's video. My little plant haul for summer 2023. Feels good to be doing another plant haul. It's been so long since I really did some plant shopping. I feel like usually I'm just bringing in my houseplants when I do my houseplant unboxings. But since moving around so many of my things and bringing in the greenhouse cabinets and whatnot into my home, I am working with a lot more space, and I need plants to fill it. So twist my arm to go plant shopping. But thank you so much for joining me on today's plant haul. If you don't already, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at phillyfoliage. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.